This happened to me in high school. It was my junior year, and one of my elective classes that I took was sewing. I loved the ability to actually make things. I really liked my teacher, Miss James. She taught me a lot and was really fun to be around. She's actually my favorite teacher I've ever had. The semester was coming to an end, and our individual sewing projects were due. The bell rang and class was over, but I still needed more time. Because Miss James was cool, she offered me more time to finish by letting me come in early tomorrow morning before school started. Miss James said to me, "I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll leave the classroom door unlocked. Just come in and finish your project. No one should be here anyways." I was very grateful for Miss James, so the next morning I did just that. The first period of school started at 7:45. I needed about 2 hours to finish my project, so I pulled into the parking lot at 5:30 in the morning, and the only car there was mine. I was the only person there. It was still pitch black and raining. I actually felt scared at this moment. Even though I'm at my school, I'm basically about to enter an abandoned building at night, alone. But I really needed to finish my project, so I started walking towards the classroom. I could hear my footsteps echoing throughout the quad. I finally got to the classroom door and opened it. The lights were off, which I found odd because I could see through the windows of the other rooms the lights were left on. As I'm trying to find a light switch, I can vaguely make out that the workstation desks are out of place. I feel for the light switch with my left hand and turn them on. The industrial type lights up near the top of the high vaulted ceiling nearly blind me. As my eyes are adjusting, I can see 3 workstation desks stacked on top of each other in the back corner of the room. Above the desks, hanging from the lights, was a still corpse. The built-up fear that I felt walking to the classroom and seeing this sent me into an out-of-body experience. I screamed as loud as I could, sprinted to my car, and drove to the police station less than 2 miles away. The police closed off the entire section of the school. Hundreds of kids showed up to flashing lights and police tape. The local news showed up as well. After investigating, the man that hung himself was a homeless man. Must have wandered around the school and found the one room that was unlocked. And for whatever reason, he decided to end his life. Probably didn't think or care who would discover him. Unfortunately, it was me. It's something I still struggle with, and something I will never forget. When I was 10, my parents and I moved to a relatively nice neighborhood to the next town over. So for my last year in elementary, I had to attend a new school. It was a difficult transition for me because trying to fit in and make new friends wasn't something that came naturally. About 2 months in, I wasn't doing very well. I was getting into a bit of trouble, and my teacher sent a note home with me to give to my parents, saying my math and reading skills were well below average, and suggested that I enroll into their after-school program that focused specifically to help students that are struggling academically. My mom didn't hesitate and signed me up. So for an extra 2 hours every day, I stayed after school and studied even more. It didn't inconvenience my parents in any way, because we lived only 1 mile from the school, so I just walked home every day. But during the second week of this, on that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I noticed an old black SUV with very tinted windows driving past me. It stood out to me because it would slow down every time it came near me. On that Wednesday, it even circled back once and slowly drove back again, coming from the opposite direction. I couldn't see at all who was inside. This really creeped me out, but I never mentioned it to anyone because technically they hadn't done anything wrong. So come Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock, I was officially done with school for the day. Once I started packing up to leave, it started to rain. With the overcast and it being in December, it was already getting dark. Either way, I put my jacket on and my hood up and headed home. About 5 minutes into my walk, there was a man walking about 20 yards behind me. Not sure where he came from. This was the first time that I'd ever seen anyone else walking while I'm going home. When I quickly turned halfway around to catch a glimpse of him, I just saw jeans and a black sweatshirt with their hood up, like me. Never saw the face. I was a little on edge at this point, but after a minute or so since I noticed him, he seemed to be maintaining his distance, and I let my guard down. No need to be paranoid, right? Just as I thought that, the same old dark black SUV from the last few days speeds up from behind me. It drives up on the sidewalk and stops directly in front of me. I stop in my tracks to wonder what the hell is going on. The man that was walking grabs me from behind, puts his right hand over my mouth, muffling my screams of terror. In his left hand is a long knife, holding it tightly up against my neck. I'm fighting to break free as he's pushing me closer to the SUV. As this is happening, the back door swings open. Inside the SUV, waiting to pull me in, is another man in his late 40s, balding, dirty, patchy-looking beard, and extremely bulging eyes. The type of look of a man that actually seems capable of doing something like this. The man with the knife has now got me almost in the car at this point. I put my feet on the left and right side of the entrance of the back seat, preventing him from pushing me in all the way, and preventing the creepy guy from pulling me inside. By some sort of miracle, the man that had his hand wrapped around my mouth, one of his fingers slips and goes into my mouth. I wasted no time biting down as hard as I could. I swear I think I snapped the bone. He let out a scream that was louder than mine. The hold he had on me I felt loosen. I spit his hand out of my mouth, feeling this is the only chance I'll have to escape. I pushed this wounded, screaming man off me. Just as I'm completely breaking free, the knife in his left hand slices along my shoulder blade. I actually didn't even feel it at this point. Pumped with loads of adrenaline, pain wasn't a thing. I sprinted across the street and cut through random people's backyards. I jumped 3 fences and made it home without a chase. One of the weirdest things about this was I wasn't even crying. My parents saw me and knew immediately something was wrong. I didn't know how until I saw all the blood on my neck. Another miracle was that it was my shoulder blade that was sliced and not my throat, so 27 stitches didn't seem so bad. When we called the police, all I could tell them was the description of the SUV and one of the men, and that there must have been 3 of them. Man holding me, man in the back seat, and someone driving. The worst part of this story was they were never caught. They found the SUV a week later. Turns out it was stolen and burnt to a crisp. Despite this horrific experience, I don't live in fear, but my parents kinda did after this. Needless to say, they didn't let me walk home alone from school anymore. This happened to me when I was in the 8th grade. One of my teachers had caught me vandalizing the boys' bathroom. It was just a bunch of spit wads with toilet paper, and I threw them on the mirrors. At the time, I didn't think it was that bad, but I was given a harsh punishment. My teacher actually gave me a choice: in-school suspension for a week, or help clean with the janitors after school for 2 hours a day for 5 days. It was a tough decision for me, but I chose to be a janitor for a week. So once the bell rang and everybody got to go home, I had to stay and do whatever the janitor needed help with. It started with basic stuff like emptying the trash cans, sweeping the hallways. It really wasn't all that bad. I still thought the punishment didn't fit the crime though, but I still did it all without complaining. Finally, Friday rolled around, and I was so excited for this to finally be over. On this day, instead of doing the usual stuff, Jerry the janitor had a different job for me. Yes, that's what all the kids called him. I'm sure he hated it. He tells me he's noticed trash along the cross-country dirt path. It outlines the school grounds, and that I need to clean that up, and that would be the last of my tasks. I was more excited to get this done and never throw any more spit wads again. I started picking up a bunch of candy wrappers and soda cans, all the usual garbage that teens litter. I also noticed something about 100 feet off the path, up a hill and sort of halfway behind a tree. There was a big blue-looking thing. It was too big to fit in my trash bag, but I was curious, so I went to check it out. As I got about 20 feet from it, I could see that it appeared to be a sleeping bag. It was zipped up all the way, so I couldn't see what was inside. But the sleeping bag wasn't laying flat. There was definitely something in there. I got a huge whiff of a raunchy, foul odor. It reminded me of the time I came across a rotting deer carcass. I literally thought, Why the hell would a deer be in a sleeping bag? I stopped and stared for about 30 seconds. And after that 30 seconds, I made up my mind and I had to find out what was inside. I grabbed the zipper and started to pull it down slowly. This only made me more anxious and scared to see what it was. So, like a band-aid, I quickly ripped the zipper down. I immediately jump back 3 feet, make a startled sound like when my friends are playing a prank on me. But this was no prank. What I saw was the face of a stiff, pale woman. Her eyes were still open and her head tilted in the direction as if she was looking right at me. I sprinted down the hill, tripped and fell twice, got to the path and pulled out my cell phone to dial 911. Waiting for the police to arrive, I focused on not freaking out and being calm. Once they got there and investigated, they said that it looks like that she most likely overdosed. They found the needle and heroin. Also found out later that she was homeless, probably just trying to stay warm and escape the life that she was living. But I will never forget that moment when I pulled the zipper down and saw her face and looked into her eyes, a look as if she was crying out for help.